All opinions expressed by the program participants are solely their own opinions and do not reflect the opinions of Upscale Love for You. The program participants' opinions are based on the information that they consider from their own knowledge. No expressions or accuracy is related to Upscale Love for You.
Dr. Fabulous. Again, this is Dr. Feelgood here. And I want to ask a question. I want to state something and I'm going to ask a question. Um, when you in a relationship, whether it's platonic, familial, romantic, you have to you do observations. You look, you check out, you read, you try to understand what's going on in your surrounding areas. Now, can anybody tell me the difference between a thermometer and a thermostat?
Uh, you want us to answer out, or I'm gonna let somebody else answer. I'm gonna let somebody else answer.
Anybody?
A thermometer, I would say, measures the temperature.
Yes.
Like you're taking someone's temperature, you're using a thermometer. Whereas a thermostat is more so something you use to regulate, I would say. Kind of like
close. Or close. They actually both do the same thing.
Right.
They both assess the temperature of an environment.
Right.
But however, one you can set it to the temperature that you want.
Right. Exactly.
One just tells you what it is, and one can actually affect the environment. Now, in relationships, and how I put that to relationships is that a lot of us are thermometers. We're quick to say, "Oh, this sucks. She ain't this. He ain't that." Very few of us will say, "The environment is not right where I want it to be. What can I do to change it to make the environment the way that we both can be comfortable?" Because two people in the room, you're very rarely both comfortable at the same time. So the thermometer could tell you, well, it's 73 degrees. To me, I'm sweating. My clothes are off. To someone like Miss Millie, she'd probably be under the covers, got 4 or 5 covers on and wearing long johns. So understanding that, we have to come to an agreement on what's a temperature where both of us can be. We're going to be somewhat uncomfortable, but we're both in the same condition. That's what the thermostat does. You say, okay, yeah, I feel a little cool now, but I might put on a t-shirt. Whereas Miss Millie would take off maybe the long underwear. So that's the difference. Now, I want everybody to answer the question. Starting with Robert, since he got his hand up. Robert, are you a thermometer in a relationship or are you a thermostat? Go ahead.
I'm both. Because, okay, I can change the temperature and I can assess the temperature. So I don't think you have to be either or, to be perfectly honest with you, because, in an environment, your temperature can change, but it's up to you to regulate the environment, to either choose to be a part of the environment, to either choose to make an environment either hot or cold. So I feel like I'm both.
Okay. In your last relationship, were you both, or were you more one way or another?
Always. I'm always both, because I don't personally feel like I am 100% right about anything. I feel like in order to make anything work, a partnership, a friendship, a marriage, or whatever the case may be, it has to be some level of compromise. So, like you said, if I'm in a room with anybody and I'm freezing, instead of going to the thermostat and turning the heat up to 95 degrees and make somebody else uncomfortable, I'd rather compromise and go someplace and put on some extra clothes or take off some clothes for that matter. So like I said, I pride myself on trying to be that person to always try to compromise. I feel like I have the ability to be in the street or in the boardroom. So, everybody knows me that, I can go from a pair of sweats to a tuxedo at the drop of a hat. So I try to be
all
flexible
righty then,
in
Robert.
anything that I do.
All right.
That's a great answer. I want somebody else to
That's what
follow
I'm
up.
talking about.
Come on, Miss Heather, talk to me.
Oh man, Dr. Feelgood, you that was an aha moment for me.
That was deep.
Yes, it really was. I think I've been the thermometer. And we're talking about romantic relationships, because I know in different relationships, I can definitely move between a thermostat and a thermometer. But I think romantic relationships, I've been a thermometer. And I think mostly because I'm trying to gauge the person. I seem to come across people that have, some challenges after I get to know them. They have all kinds of things going on. And with the things that they have going on, you don't want to add to whatever their temperature is. And you want them, you look to them to kind of control the environment, because if you control it, then you remind them of whatever drama or other people that they have going on. So I've been the thermometer, going along to getting along to learning and figuring out where I fit in. And, after kind of learning that over time, I've realized that, I have needs. I have things that need to be heard or seen. And in that moment, I need to be the thermostat to be able, so I can be heard, I can be seen. So that's a really, really good way of looking at things. Like, thank you.
My pleasure. Come on, sis, talk to me. Thermostat. I know you was a thermostat because you always change any environment you in. But talk to me.
I actually, I think in my past relationships, I was a thermometer. I wanted to control the situation, or control the relationship, and to make it mine. Then, as I grew up, after I divorced, I realized that I shouldn't have been a thermostat. I should have been I shouldn't have been a thermometer, but I should have been a thermostat. Like Robert said, I should have been in there where I can compromise and assess different things to make it work for both of us. I'm learning that now. I have learned to stop, drop, and roll, and realize, okay, it's not going to always be about me, and it can't always be about me. But I had to learn that it's a two-way street. How that person learned how to love doesn't mean they learned how to love how I learned how to love. So we have to come together and bring that love together. I might learn from what he learned, and he might learn from what I learned, but you have to compromise. So I now am a thermostat, but was a thermometer.
Okay. Just one thing to both you and Robert. That word compromise, it has a very negative connotation. I mean, that's just me. I prefer the word adjustment. Going with the thermostat thing.
Well, adjust to a new way. Adjust to a new way.
Right. Because if you compromise, the reason why it's a negative connotation, meaning that something breached the integrity of something. So when you compromise something, you breach that integrity. If you adjust something, you're either loosening or tightening. You're doing an action, and doesn't have a negative connotation. That's just, like I said, that's just me personally. I prefer adjustment than compromise.
I like that. It's I will try to use that word rather than compromise.
Right. And that's that was it. What about you, Miss Millie? Were you a thermostat or a thermometer?
For years, I was a thermometer, whereas whatever it was, that's what it was going to be. And I'm like, okay, you like it or you don't, to a certain degree. Now I am a thermostat. I make adjustments according to the person. and see if we can come to a mutual ground on things versus just totally doing whatever and just agreeing with things. We talk about it and we come to an agreement, and I'm cold. I stay cold. I'll hit that thermostat in the quickness. But before I hit it now, I'll be like, if you're not cold, I'll just add me an extra cover or etc. etc. So now I am a thermostat versus, and I learned now, I used to say what I want to say and didn't care if you like it or not. Now I use my ears a little more because I have two, and I listen a little more now because I'm not always right.
That right there,
Even
Miss
though I
Millie,
think
right
it sometimes, but I have to not put it out there that I'm always right. I have to say, oh, that's another way of doing it. So I'm a thermostat now.
I think you and I read the same book at the same time.
Gangster T, talk to me.
You know, this is really a loaded one, because if you take Rob's definition and use the word assess, assessing a situation is a positive thing. When I think that's what he said with the thermostat, right? The thermostat. So I would almost answer both as well, because I assess the situation in the room, but then I can also adapt and adjust, because I'm a win-win type person, and that's how I look at the definition of compromise. When you said that the adjustment, but I look at it as creating a win-win situation. So I'm not going to forgo something that I strongly believe in, but if I have a mate, I have to be able to create win-wins for both of us, and that's the way I look at the definition of compromise. So I would say I'm a little bit of both. The only thing is the one that regulates. You have to make a decision as to whether or not you want to regulate. So if I assess the room and it's a mean, grumpy man, I might make the decision to not do anything versus even giving the time of day to that person. So I would say a little bit of both.
Right, but if you think it in context, inaction is an action. Because you don't, like you said, you don't have to do anything.
Right.
But that could be the correct action, or it could be it's still an action. What about you, Anson?
I'm gonna always say a thermostat, and I think that most people would not even want to claim a thermometer, because thermometer, you just going along with the flow, whatever it is, it is. So I think everyone would want to say that they're a thermostat.
Right, but the thing is, though, is that you're right. But if you go back to what Robert was saying, at times you're going to be a thermometer. You're going to just assess the situation. You're going to make a judgment off that situation, but you may not act. You say, somebody come up to you, Anson, some young lady come up to you and be like, hey, Anson, you looking fine, but her breath, she has a body like Halle Berry, but a breath like halitosis.
Mm-hmm.
And you're gonna make an adjustment. You're gonna be like, how you doing? But I'm, like I said, you might not
whip
make
that Tic Tac out.
You might just say hi and keep it moving.
I was just going based off of what you said at the beginning. Said they can do both. They both do the same things. So right. I'd rather be able to assess the situation just like a thermometer does, but I also have the opportunity to adjust. Right. So
and like I said, this is not a right or wrong answer, but I was just giving context that sometimes inaction is an action.
Mm-hmm. And I agree.
You're just saying, nah, I'm good. But you're not,
I agree, because I would say I'm a thermostat because I can choose to deal with it or not. I can choose to work properly or not work at all, which
exactly
is that a thermostat does.
Exactly.
So I will always compare myself to a thermostat in any relationship that I choose to deal with.
And that makes perfect sense. What about you, Miss Nikki? What do you think you are?
I've always I've always seemed to be the one doing the adjusting, but as I've gotten older, I've realized that my concerns and needs are just as important as the other person. So I've become a little bit more forceful in what I'm seeking and what I'm wanting. and still doing the adjusting, but also not adjusting as much as I used to.
Right. So you're not folding like origami then.
No.
So what about you, Miss Dream? Are you a thermostat or thermometer?
Unmute yourself.
You're muted, Andreen.
Sorry, I'm gonna say both. I feel like earlier when I was married forever, but probably I was definitely more of the in charge, like my way or the highway type of thing. And I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing, but I definitely think there's always has to be room to adjust. Since you don't like compromise, it's compromise, adjust. They're similar connotations. I think compromise does tend to have a more negative connotation, but I feel like now, and I just feel like you're different. When you're older, you're wiser, and then it's like you start to think about what really matters. So
right.
That's why I have to be both, because on some things I'm gonna want what I want, and then on other things I'm gonna be willing to adjust and work for whatever that common goal is at the time.
That's pretty excellent. I'm getting so many excellent answers. I think I'll go to my next point. My next point is growth. Growth is associated with gaining size, mass, and stature. And there are different things as a catalyst. Something has to catalyze growth. For example, a plant needs water and sun, right? Fish need food. People need food in order to grow, water, things like that. What are the catalysts if you think that's important in a relationship to help it grow in a positive direction? Because just like good things, diseases grow too. Cancer grows too. It's whichever. It's two wolves. There are two wolves. One's a good wolf that does everything you want to do, and one's an evil wolf that burns everything down. You know which one grows more? The one you feed more. Whichever wolf you feed more, it grows more. So what food in the relationship, and I'm trying to be agnostic, what type of relationship growth food do you think is important in growing a healthy relationship? Because like I said, it doesn't matter, family, friendly, romantic, or even business, you still need to be able to, you still have to have some type of fuel. First answer, then Dr. Fabulous.
A number one fuel in any relationship, no matter what it is, romantic, family, work relationship, anything. Number one food to help grow in a relationship is accountability. You have to be self-accountable for anything.
Clap.
To grow with anyone. You have to be self-accountable. So whatever you do, you need to take ownership of it. Whether good or bad, you need to be the one to acknowledge if that's good or bad. And know that if it's good or bad. That makes a relationship grow. If you all of a sudden not being accountable for your own actions, then how do you plan on growing anything with anyone? You're hopeless.
It goes back to those wolves. If you're not being accountable, you're feeding that other wolf.
Exactly.
You're feeding that other wolf. Dr. Fab, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say a clear understanding, communicating, because you could be saying one thing, but if a person isn't sure, that's just like sending a text message. You can send something and someone may think, well, you text this. Did that really mean what you text? And I've had that issue. I'll say things, but I don't mean to hurt a person's feeling. So open communication and willing to talk about certain things, I think that helps to build a healthy relationship as well with communicating. That's it. I think we lost Dr. Feelgood. Go ahead, Millie.
I think for it to be a healthy and relationship to go the way that you would like for it to go, or the way that it needs to go, honesty is definitely going to be key. And first, you have to be honest with yourself in order to be honest with someone else. I had to find myself totally before I would be able to even be totally open and honest with someone else, because you hide this, you hide that, you don't want to talk about this subject, you don't want to talk about that subject, but every subject need to be discussed with honesty, sincere. So it's, and communicate and get it to where it need to be.
All right. Well, I appreciate that. I kind of jumped in, Dr. Feelgood, because I thought we had lost you, but go ahead and take the show.
Did. You did. I didn't pay my bill, so.
Okay. We have to take up a collection.
I know. I gotta feed my squirrels. Miss Char, can you hear me? Miss Char, can you hear me? Bueller.
Chocolate Pearl keep putting her hand up and down.
Go ahead, Chocolate Pearl, then. Go ahead.
Well, I had it up before Fabulous, but I think because my skin tone, y'all didn't recognize it. But then when you called on her, she said exactly what I was going to say, and that was communication. I've said that in multiple shows, that communication is one of the biggest number one thing that you need in a relationship, because if you don't have communication, why? Just why? Communication is key to life, period, not just in relationships, but in everything that you do. Communication. I can't say it anymore. But I agree with a lot of what everyone said. Miss Millie, excellent. I appreciate that. Outside of communication, I think once you have communication, everything else will fall in place, should fall in place. Sometimes it don't, sometimes it do, but
especially when both parties is being open and honest about the communication.
Right. And like with communication, you can just soar in your relationship. You can soar in so much. You can die also in a relationship too now, but you can soar so much if you communicate properly. And sometimes some communication is not good, because us women, and I'm saying us women, have a tendency of running our mouths that causes more issues than we need to. So communication as well as listening. We need to listen. Like Ms. Millie said earlier, we got 2 ears and 1 mouth, but we choose to use our mouth more than we use our ears. So once we start learning doing the opposite, you will have one of the best relationships in life.
It really helps. I'm doing it now.
Yes. No. Yes, but it goes back to what I said a couple of weeks ago about communication styles. Women are much more descriptive in their communication mode than men. So when a woman's talking to a man, a lot of times a man's just fishing for the right words to hear. Everything else is wah 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 wah. Whereas a guy will say something to a woman, and the woman's like, "There's got to be more. There's got to be more. I can't believe he just said just that. No, it's got to be more." But like you said, with age, experience, and getting to know a person, you understand how they listen and how they speak and how they hear, because you can hear something but don't listen.
Right. We tend to react on emotion, and when that happens, we fish for more that's really not there. So that causes more issues than need be. So if we just take what someone says at face value, take it as face value, shut up, listen, and let it marinate, because if you don't understand it right then and there, you may eventually understand it if you just take the time to listen. And I realized that was one of my biggest issues, not just with my ex, but it was with my children as well. Shut up, listen, you might learn something. And that's
It's
like I
so
said,
hard
communication.
to
Hush,
listen to
hush your noise.
someone. Say that right.
So what I've been doing lately also is if it's a situation that's going to get heated versus me addressing it at that moment, I'll say, I understood, but let's talk about it later. Let me dissect it. Let me process it.
Right.
And then we'll discuss it at a later time.
Now, don't you realize that back in the day, Miss Millie, because I think you and I are about the same age. Okay. Back in the day, we wouldn't play that. We would say, oh no, you're gonna talk to me. You ain't gonna walk away. We ain't gonna discuss this. Not realizing that the best thing was to leave it alone. Step back, take a breath, collect your thoughts. Because you'll wind up saying stuff you shouldn't have said. You wind up doing stuff that you shouldn't have done. Things get heated, and then next thing you know, it just goes a different way. But as we get older and we learn, seasoned, okay. as we get seasoned, we learn that what we did when we were younger we shouldn't have done that. We should have been a little bit more adjustable in our thinking and in our speaking and in our communication. And that way we probably would have still been with those people or that person that we thought was, the right person. Or, we could have listened to our children and understanding they wouldn't have done, this, that, and the other. I actually, believe it or not, I know my brother told me and other members of my family have told me probably the same thing. But who I truly listened to was my hot-headed son. He actually sat down and he talked to me and we understood each other. And when I just sat there and I listened and I let it marinate, I understood because he had to go through the same thing. And this boy is not even 30 yet. He went through the same thing. He went through so much in life. And I'm 53 and I'm learning from a 29-year-old. So sometimes the things that we do and with our mouths, and I'm just speaking based on us women and the experience of being a woman, we have to once again listen more, talk less. And because men are basically direct when they speak. I'm saying this. If I say XYZ, that's what I meant. XYZ. Don't try to read between the lines. Don't try to make a circle around it. It's XYZ.
It is what
and take it at face value. If they show you who they are, believe it.
And also, we have to learn that not necessarily that if we would have done things differently, if I may, that we would have possibly still been with that person, because in every lesson, there's a blessing. But it's gonna end up, what's gonna dictate what you get from it is how you grow from it, how you learn from it, and what you do the next time around in the same scenario. Will you tweak it and change it to a different way so you can see a different outcome?
That's called the spice, the seasoning that you was talking about.
What both of these ladies just expressed,
the seasoning.
what both of y'all just expressed is exactly what I was talking about when I said accountability. You learned from what you did. Mm-hmm. So now you're accountable for what you do, therefore, because you learned from that. If you turn around and do the same thing again, what's that? That's the definition of insanity. Yes. You do the same things, expecting a different result.
I love him.
If you won't
do it no more,
you have to be the change you want to see.
Right. That's the perfect example of accountability right there.
Miss Dream, what does it take to make a relationship grow?
Oh man, I know Miss Millie said a whole word. That was good. I feel like it takes a little bit of everything. And I think accountability is a big piece. I think communication is a big piece. I think being able to learn and grow and be accountable for whatever the relationships were of the past, that, the good and the bad, kind of like what she said, everything is a lesson and a blessing at the same time. And just embracing who you are and being happy with yourself so that hopefully you can just kind of grow and thrive and together, however it may be. Because at the end of the day, I think, and I do think you kind of have to like, I don't feel like you have to exactly know what you want, but hopefully you're on the same page or have some commonalities so that you can work together to kind of work out the kinks. Because I think there's always going to be ups and downs, and not everybody's going to agree on everything. And I think a part of it is just being flexible and willing to grow and learn as you go through the process, because it's a process.
Yes, it is. It is a process, and
daily
sometimes
walk.
we have to trust the process. A lot of times we don't want to. We are so used to think about it. We got ATMs. 40 years ago, you had to go to the bank to get your money.
Mm-hmm.
We got microwaves. I can tell you a story about a microwave, my Aunt Pam's microwave, and I didn't know how to use one, and that was one of them old ones with the knobs. You know, you got instant cake. You remember when we were little, you had to make, basically pancake mix was just flour. You had to put everything else in there.
Oh, cake.
Yeah. So
water bread.
We're used to getting things done fast, in a hurry, and wait, chop. So we lost our ability to see micro growth. We're looking at macro growth, and progress is progress. If it's 3 centimeters, you're 3 centimeters further than you were yesterday. But a lot of people don't want to see that.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people are so paid. I want it now. I want it now. I want it now. And if I give advice to anybody from here, do not drag your past into your present. That's a bad recipe, and it will mess up your future. Don't forget your past, because it helped make you good and bad. But don't bring your last boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, wife into your relationship.
Yes.
Because you're
Don't
going to
use
bring
it as a recipe book. Just use it as a reference.
Because you're going to make a crap cake.
And
then wonder why she leave me.
Yep, learn from it.
I ain't did nothing wrong. But on that note, because I know it's getting late. Why are we still here, girl? I'm gonna pass it on to my